How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how you can actually invest in real estate without physically buying real estate, doing so through the stock market and something called REITs. So I'm going to be showing you a few examples of REITs that I personally like and a few that I'm invested in and I think is definitely interested to actually look at. Like if you want to put some money, let's say on a house to actually use as an investment, but you don't have enough money to physically buy a house, why not put that money into a REIT? So I'm going to be showing you everything about that. Basically, a REIT is literally, if you guys don't know, it's basically there's a few different types. There's some that have a trust, or there's some where they physically own apartment buildings and they actually manage it, and you get a portion of their income. So instead of you renting out a house, they do it for you. And by owning their stock, you're funding them being able to buy more and expand, and basically you get a portion. So it's like owning a small piece of each apartment in an indirect way, if that makes sense. So right before we jump into it, if you haven't already, make sure to go down in the description and get your 2 free stocks using Webull. Make sure to do this if you haven't already. It literally takes like 10 minutes to do. Open up a brokerage, and if you deposit $100, you'll get 2 free stocks worth up to $1,200 to $1,400. So if you haven't done so, make sure to do it. Webull is a great brokerage, and I do recommend doing so. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into this. My dog is barking. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but hopefully that it's not too loud. Now, the first one is gonna be Avalon Bay. So this as you guys can see, this is every single basically apartment complex that they own throughout the world. They own some in California. I think they have the biggest emphasis in California, Northern California, Southern, and in Colorado, Connecticut, Washington, D.C., Florida. You guys see everything that they own all over the United States, basically, right? If you actually see, this is their stock right now. It actually hasn't recovered yet, so there's still room for recovery for Avalon stock. More unlike a lot of other stocks that have fully recovered already. It was like around $200 at the lowest point within the last year. It's currently sitting at a 171, so it still has about 20 to 20% to recover before it gets back to where it was a year ago. And it has been steadily growing within the last few years. So I actually have Avalon Bay Complex in my city, which is pretty cool. I didn't know that they actually had a stock, but I looked at them, and I do think, as you guys can see, basically right now, people were expecting to not get much rent, but most people ended up paying their rent. As a result, obviously their EPS did dip a bit, but it's not too bad. Like their earnings are still positive, which is good. If you guys look at basically the dividend, they pay about a with a 30p ratio, which is a bit high, but it's not the best P ratio, that's for sure. But they have about a 3 to 4% dividend. I believe AVB has a let's quickly go Avalon Bay stock. I believe they have about a 3%. I could be wrong. About 3.7% dividend, which isn't too bad. And they're going to keep it because the people are still like, they're still making profit. So I don't believe they're going to be cutting their dividend. At least this quarter, they're still going to be paying out their dividend. So it's definitely a decent dividend. So the way it works is you basically get 4% a year, right? On top of whatever growth you get from having the stock. So let's say in 5 years, the stock went up 30%. You made about 30% in 5 years plus another, let's round it up to 4%. So you made 12 plus your 30%. So that's a conservative estimate. So that's about 45% in 5 years. So you made roughly 8 to 9% on your money in the last 5 years. That's if you bought the stock 5 years ago and you kept it before the crash. I'm not talking about within the crash because this is kind of like a very rare scenario. But if everything goes back to normal, let's go to the max chart. If everything goes back to normal, it has grown pretty well within the last, obviously this was the dip of the financial kind of like real estate crisis. So that's actually not too bad. If you buy a home and you have a mortgage on it, you get a renter, you get a tenant, you can expect to get roughly 6% a year. Obviously, as the house appreciates, you could hopefully get more than 6% a year on your money. But with if you do this, if you buy a REIT, you can possibly do that without all the headache of having a tenant, having to rent out the property, having to do all the maintenance that comes around of owning a property. Obviously, it's not the same. You don't physically own it, but you can say that you do own a small piece of it. For example, they definitely are expanding. They have a high emphasis in California, right? And a few of their actual buildings, I believe, if you look at it, they have all shapes and sizes. They have like very modern buildings, or in the areas that aren't too developed, like aren't needed to be too luxury. They have those as well. I believe this is kind of, I'm not sure if this is one of them, but this is one that's like not too developed, but it is like, it's not too like high class, if that makes sense. It's more of a middle low class type of area, middle class, but they focus more on the middle to high class homes, which is definitely growing, I would say, throughout, especially in the California region. The next stock, I don't want to spend too much time on one stock, is REIT. Now this is a great basically an all-around great REIT, right? Because you are gonna be, you're basically the most diversified as it gets. This, you can't diversify any more than REIT, because this is a trust. You don't own specific buildings, rather you own a trust of a ton of REITs into one. So basically, they don't have as much growth as the other company. If you held it 5 years ago to the height, you would have made 16%. So it's not the craziest in terms of growth, but you can get a steady 4% a year on your money using this REIT. Obviously, it's still down from the height. So it was at $22 and it used to be at around 30, around 28. So you still have about what, like probably like 20%, is it? Like 20%, 30, 25% more of growth by the time it actually goes back to where it was before. Now this REIT is from iShares, which is very it's a very like credible REIT. Now the only thing about this is that I'm not sure if it shows it up. I know, yeah, it definitely shows it up on Webull. If you go to REIT on Webull, it's literally REET, the way it sounded out, REET. If you look at the volume, the only thing is the volume I don't really like. Only 400,000 volume. I mean, that's fine, unless you're watching this and you're a multimillionaire with a ton of money. But generally, 500,000 volume isn't the best. If you go to something that I showed earlier, which is AVB, the Avalon Bay, it has a volume of about 800,000, which is double. And I believe the average is up to 1 million. So it's a lot better of a volume. Like 400,000 is okay, but you usually want around 1,800,000 is fine. So that is that. The next one and the third one is ESS, which is Essex Property Trust. Now they specifically own buildings in California. Their P ratio is a bit better at 27, which is still a bit high, but for a REIT, I would say it's pretty decent. It still has room to recover as well, with 20% up to go. Now, if you look at ESS, let's look at Webull right now, ESS, you can actually see that they obviously have a better volume, 400,000. It's probably still not the best, but I guess for a REIT, it's all right at the end of the day. Oops. Yeah, let's go back. It's still a bit low, but obviously it's fine. In terms of, unless you do have like literally $1 million you want to sell, but generally it's still pretty fine. It's about average. It's a bit over average right now in terms of their pricings. But if you look at their earnings, it's about similar as the other ones as well. But the thing is, they're not multi-state. They're very highly emphasized in the California market. So they have homes in all around California. So if you like, literally, if you guys want to search up for yourself, you go to ESS, not holdings rather, but properties. And if you actually look at their properties, they should have I saw this earlier, but I think this is how it works. Like they basically have some all over southern, northern, all over California. I can't find it right now, but I probably should have had this up before. Oh yeah, right here. I already had it up. This is all the properties that they own. You guys can literally go on the website, ESS Apartments, and then /apartments, LA area 44, Orange County 28. And they actually have some in the Seattle area as well, which is pretty nice. So they're not only in California. I don't know why I thought it was only California, but they're only in the West Coast, which is California and Washington. Yeah. So the cool thing about this specifically is that if you guys literally may have actually been to one of these buildings, because if you, like, let's say you live in like LA, right, and you've been moving quite a few times between apartments, like there's a pretty decent chance you might have lived in one of these apartments, actual complexes, which is pretty cool. Like imagine paying rent but also owning a portion of that. Like that is a pretty cool concept, not gonna lie. They have one, some right here, they have all over, near Inglewood, Santa Monica, LA, North Hollywood, like literally all over Los Angeles. Oh, I keep zooming out, but that is definitely pretty interesting. They have some in the Pasadena area, which is pretty cool. And then, oops, oh man, this is really, I don't like this map that much. Definitely don't. But then they have some in the Seattle metro area, which is definitely developing. That's where the yeah, that's where the Microsoft, Amazon, and stuff like that, basically their headquarters are. So it's definitely more of a developing area as well, along as California is. So it's definitely pretty interesting. So if you guys, in theory, buy AVB, ESS, and maybe REIT as well, those three, obviously you don't want to buy just one REIT stock, in my opinion, because you do want to be diversified in everything you do. Obviously, if you just have a little bit of money, yeah, just buy one. But if you're actually put up quite a bit of money, you do want to stay diversified. So I would definitely buy maybe an ESS, maybe an AVB, and hold those. Now there's an honorable mention I want to show you guys, just so you can actually like get an idea. That is Digital Realty. They're more of a technology company almost. It's like they're tracking the NASDAQ. As you can see, they're basically at an all-time high, because the way they work is they're real estate based around technology stuff. So they have buildings that basically employ technology based like companies and properties. So if that makes any sense. So basically they actually, let's go to maybe if I do DLR properties, it'll come up. I completely spelled that wrong. But if we go here, oh man, I don't even know if this is the right company. But anyways, they basically own buildings that employ people that are in the tech space. That's why it's so high up. Like basically, I don't want to say it tracks the NASDAQ, but if the NASDAQ goes up, this stock I've seen that goes up as well. I wouldn't really recommend it though. In terms of maybe put a small portion into this, but look at their P ratio of 50. It's very high because this stock is already at an all-time high, so I wouldn't recommend it. That's why I'm putting this as an honorable mention. I personally maybe wouldn't buy this at this high of a P ratio, but yeah, it is definitely something to see. So they own and manage facilities that safely store data. So for example, obviously Amazon has a whole digital cloud, stuff like that. All these companies are in the business of storing data and keeping it, stuff like that. They basically have their stuff around that. Obviously they're in San Francisco, around the Silicon Valley area, so they're pretty big on that space. But once again, their P ratio is very high, so it may be justified because of the space they're in. They're in a very, very fast growing area. See, they invest in neutral data centers and peering services. So like peer-to-peer services and data centers, which are massively growing, to be fair. So it is definitely interesting, which may justify this high price to earnings ratio. But yeah, that is pretty much it. Hopefully this explains REIT to you quite a bit. I personally do have some Avalon Bay stock, which I'm keeping a bit, which is pretty cool. And I am definitely looking to buy some more. As stocks begin to recover, this may be a great long-term play. Like if you guys always wanted to, or if you guys are looking to do long-term investing, maybe some retirement investing, REITs are a very, very good place to store your money, because at the end of the day, properties aren't going anywhere. Real estate is not going anywhere at the end of the day. So that is why I do think it's a very good place to actually buy and store your money. So hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this channel, as I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. So if any of you guys can help reach that goal, that would be really appreciated. And I'll see you on my next video.